You know, archery is meant to be fun and all, but sometimes you just want to be better than the person next to you. Hi everyone, this is NUSensei. You've probably already seen my series on beginner archery videos, but this video is something a little more of a crash course on how to be good at archery in your first session. One of the things that really attracts people to archery is that inherent desire to improve oneself. You always ask yourself, how can I do the next shot better? What technique can I learn to make myself more consistent? And archery is perfect for that sort of improvement. Now, of course, the goal for any first session in archery is to have fun. But at some point, people will want to become better. So what should you focus on in becoming better in your first archery session? What is the secret to archery? How can people hit golds like that so consistently? How can you make your friends look bad? Well, let's see how we can do that. In your first introductory session, you will likely be shown the steps in the shot process. Standing about shoulder width apart, gripping the bow in a gentle way, gripping the string using 3 fingers, lifting the bow, pulling it back to your anchor point, and then letting it go. And that's the sort of thing which you need to get used to with repetition. But doing this right won't necessarily make you a better archer. That will give you the foundation to learn more advanced skills. And many people will take about half an hour to get used to this process of standing, knocking an arrow, lifting the bow, pulling it back, and doing a shot. And that is, of course, the shot process. Of course, people like me want to focus on particular elements and become better at them. So which one of these steps should you focus on the most on your first session? While mastering every step of the shot process is important, the 3 things which I think make the most difference in your accuracy on your first day are your anchor point, your point of aim, and your back tension. Let's start with anchor point. When you start doing bare bow archery, which is what most clubs will teach, you need a reference point on your face, which is called the anchor point. That's where you touch when you pull the string back. This is a fairly unique concept in archery, so it wouldn't be surprising for many learners to struggle with where to pull the string back. Very often, a learner will pull the string back quite far from their face, off to the side, or just in front. Now, the correct way to anchor is to touch your face itself. And for many people, you're told to touch the corner of your mouth. So if you remove the string here, you're basically touching around here. This will vary between different people, but you need to have a reference point. The reason is, if you change this anchor point, this reference point, then the arrow will not fly where you think it will go. So making sure that you do this consistently with every shot is paramount to any form of consistency, and consistency leads to accuracy. Each one of those shots involved me pulling the string back and touching a very specific point on my face, and that was consistent. I drew back and shot with a very similar rhythm, and the result was the shot placement was in a very tight grouping. One key point to make is that you shouldn't be afraid to press the string tightly against your face. Many people do have this slight fear of the string snapping back and hitting themselves. That won't happen. The tighter it is against your face, the more consistent it is. If you have any looseness here, or if you only draw back part way, or you touch with your thumb rather than the rest of your fingers, then you've got much more variation in how you draw. And variation leads to inconsistency. So if you get your anchor point right, and that doesn't change much between each shot, you can at least isolate that this will not be the cause of any problems you have. In my experience as an instructor, this is perhaps the first milestone for a new archer, simply being able to pull back to the same spot each time. And when I show people how to do so and start magically grouping well, it's like a major breakthrough. It's a simple step, but getting it right is a matter of muscle memory and of course repetition. The next part is point of aim. If you're learning to shoot with a sight, then this is actually fairly straightforward. All you have to do is to align the sight pin with the target and follow your shot process. If you learn to shoot without a sight, in other words, you are shooting a bare bow, then this is a much more difficult process. So let's go through what it might look like. Again, I can't show this to you in first person, so try to imagine me drawing the bow back. So let's pretend I'm pulling back on the string and it looks like this in first person. And for many archers, it might look something like this. And this is a problem because, as you may be aware, many archers who are starting out will aim the bow too high and end up shooting over the target. This is because, again, remember that the line of sight from your eye is higher than where your arrow is actually pointing. Your arrow is pointing upwards. Therefore, if I shot from here, this will go into the back wall and make another hole. So instead of aiming your arrow straight at the center of the target, aim towards the bottom of the target. And for me, at around 10 meters, that's roughly what it should look like. And again, your first person view will be different because, of course, I can't show you in first person, but the point of the arrow when shooting a bare bow at 10 meters should be at the bottom. And again, this depends on the draw weight of the bow, the arrows used in distance, but you should be aiming far lower than you think you actually would. And if you memorize this spot, you should be consistently getting the center each time. Whichever reference point you use, if you can get that right, then you would have solved the key to accuracy, having a consistent anchor and having a consistent point of aim. I did mention a third thing, back tension. This is a more advanced concept which I wouldn't expect a beginner to figure out on the first session. Normally people take 2 or 3 or more sessions to understand what it means to use your back muscles. I'll show you the difference between using back tension and not using back tension. So many people who start archery believe that all you need to do is to use your arms, and the shot might look like this. But an archer who uses back tension will look more like this. Now, on camera, there might not be a huge amount of difference. The key, however, is how much strength or tension you feel between your shoulder blades. This is a feeling which you can practice by yourself without a bow. Imagine pulling a bow and not using any shoulder or back movement. Then imagine yourself pulling the same bow but trying to squeeze your shoulders together. You should feel a certain amount of tension running through your back. When you do this with a bow and you let go with that amount of tension, you should feel a very satisfying oomph through your body. You should feel it through your upper shoulders and down here. If you get that feeling, that generally indicates that yes, you are using back tension. You can also improve your back muscle engagement by keeping note of where your drawing elbow is. If it's too low, then you're putting more pressure on your arms. If you lift it slightly high, especially when you start, then you will find that your muscles will naturally pop into place. Again, when you execute a shot with back tension, you should be feeling a push and pull. The tension will be going through your arms, through your shoulders, and when you let go, the oomph happens. Now, this often means you will have a more pronounced follow through. that's okay. That is also normally a sign that you're doing it right. Of course, there is a difference between a proper follow through and a superficial one. If all you're doing is moving your hand back and it flaps around, it flicks your hair, then that's not really a proper follow through. But proper back tension will more or less force your hand to slide back past your cheek, and that's what you should be aiming for. Don't try to do it consciously, but if you followed all the processes by having the elbow high, you squeeze your shoulders together on the shot, then you should feel that snap, and that is good back muscle engagement. And if you can do that on your first session, I assure you, your instructor will be very impressed. I mean, seriously, this is the perhaps hardest thing that we teach people, but getting it right is a huge breakthrough for any beginning archer. As I said before, it's important to get every step right, but if you want to push yourself mentally on your first session and you want to have some kind of success criteria, I think those 3 steps are the most important. Getting a consistent anchor point and getting the right point of aim. These first 2 will have the most impact on your shooting because those 2 things are really the core of hitting anything in archery. The third one, back tension, is a more advanced part of learning, but if you can get that right, then you will feel that success going through you. Anyway, this is NUSensei. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.